right, it's not often on Lichess I get to play against a much better player, as not because I'm like overly good or anything. I do decent at blitz, but it gets to the point to where there's fewer and fewer guys at the top of the pyramid, and then everybody only wants to play people of similar rating because there's diminishing returns on playing low rated players. Because like me at 2500 on Lichess and blitz, if you give me a 2600, I'm pretty sure the math works out that if we play 3 games, I get him 1, he gets me 2, we're at break even. So why would a 2600 want to play somebody 100 points lower when they can just play one of their own? Or somebody higher, even better.
Is your anime board?
So yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah. Because everybody always wants to play the high rated guy. And it's a philosophy thing. It's funny, we're online, we're that way, but in a tournament, too often people will react poorly to playing a higher rated player or a much, much higher rated player. Like, I'm going to be honest, I personally get very, very excited. Like, I get paired with a grandmaster in a tournament game. I'm like, nothing to lose, baby. Everybody expects for me to lose the game, and it's like 1 to 3 rating points. Okay, I'm getting the experience of playing one of the best players in the world. I'm excited about this to test myself as a player to see where my limits are. And when you're playing against somebody much higher, you should have this philosophy. A lot of people are like, oh, God, I'm just going to lose. Why ever think that way? I mean, I think back to my games with Caruana and So from the Pro League last year, and in both of those games, I had the mindset of I must get a certain type of position, otherwise they're going to maul me. They're better than I am in every facet of the game, so I have to get a position I understand at a high level, and I got to play fast against them in the time controls, otherwise I'm just getting murdered. So I got murdered and I got murdered, but, you know, I didn't get embarrassed, which I felt good about. And those games are on YouTube if you're interested, with full analysis. Now, this game, I'm getting to play a player who is 2650, and if I'm about top 500 in Lichess, depending upon the day, he should be about top 200 or so. So a 2600 on Lichess is pretty ridiculous in regards to blitz skill. So anytime I can crack one, I feel pretty good about it. And the quality of this game wasn't horrendous, but I knew this line, I'd studied this line, and I want to share it. So yeah, it was an English, and I mess around with the move orders by pre-moving. So I play knight f3 here, and this is not a good line for white. If black just plays e4, it's like a weird Alekhine, but keep in mind, after me writing a book on the Alekhine, I'm not exactly uncomfortable in this type of position. So I'll play it occasionally and just get a game. But my opponent allows me to transpose, and almost everybody universally recommends G3 systems. And I started really analyzing. It was around the time I was playing the Sicilian Khan almost every time against e4, and I still play it very frequently. I love the structure with the opening, and I'm like, well, why can't I just play e3 with white, and it's like a Sicilian on both sides. When in doubt, hedgehog it out, baby. You know, so then I started getting more serious about it, and even now I am in the process. I've got one more book I'm finishing for Chessable, and then I'm going to start working on a white repertoire. Whether it be e4, d4, or c4, I'm going to write one or all three at some point. But I don't know, to me, most interesting are these English, because they can transpose into either e4 or d4 systems depending upon your move order. So I like that. My opponent played an inferior line. The line that I see, I'd say 8 out of 10 games, is going to be bishop b4. And those are the most aggressive lines. In my recently published text, Opening Oddities on Playing Against the English, I make note of how aggressive those lines are and recommend the simple but solid bishop e7 and follow up with d5. And those positions are roughly equal. My opponent decided to play d5, and it's basically a colors reversed open Sicilian where white has an extra move. And this is not as strong for black as the two aforementioned options. So I capture. And now, for the English player, what would you do here? E4? E4 is reasonable, but not yet. First, bishop b5, because it just makes a threat. Okay. And then we're threatening to take the e-pawn, so they clip and then defend the pawn. Now you play e4. d4 is quite a playable move, but I found when analyzing this position that d4, white really doesn't have a clear plan, and you end up wasting a move at a certain point, and you end up playing black with white. And that's kind of what black's hoping for. You messed around too much. So in this position, I'm getting a critical pawn structure, and I'd played a game just like this before, so the structure isn't that different. So once you get this position down, you just need to know black's counterplay is going to come from like an f5 break. So if you can ever shut down f5, his counterplay is going to be very difficult to manifest anywhere. So after he castles, I castle, and what you really want to see is them play either bishop g4 or f5 immediately, and try too hard. King h8 is probably one of the more accurate moves. But when he goes bishop g4, I'm like, tickle, tickle. And like I said, I want to shut down f5, so he just made it really easy for me. Defend the e-pawn. And right here, this was just me playing too quickly. I didn't think too much in the position because I pretty much have a guaranteed advantage here if I just play bishop takes c6 and ruin the pawn structure. That's the most natural move. But I'm like, I'm going to prevent f5 even more. And then he goes after me. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to pay for it. And at least my queen got developed on the open file. So now, here's a good question. And this is for everybody because we're out of the opening at this point. What is white to do here? Because it's easy to make a mistake after a move like h5. It's a good provoking move. But I've had this exact position before, and I was able to find the best continuation. Uh-huh.
Knight g4, so if he pushes the pawn, you can move your knight to knight e6, forking the queen and rook.
There's a lot of ifs in your statement.
You can't push the pawn.
And we got to work on this, that I'm not even done speaking before you're recommending a move. Everybody else is thinking a little bit. Which also would relate to if your game's finished faster than everybody else in the room, maybe it's an impulse control thing. Sit on your hands a bit. See Reed sitting on his hands. Yeah, I was just playing. But you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in the pockets. Arnold said that. Uh-huh.
Why can't you just take the B pawn?
Take the B pawn? That looks really sketchy. Your king's wide open. Queen takes b7, h takes g4, h takes g4, and then rook b8. I don't know. You can have some pawns. I'm going to get to attack you pretty soon. And this doesn't look fun. That's not it. Greed's no good as the position opens up when your opponent has the B pair. Uh-huh.
Like knight g5.
Knight g5, what's the follow-up? Because Zach recommended that, but of course our opponent's not going to play f6.
Because he can't.
Can't.
Yeah.
And then you push the f pawn.
Push the f-pawn to open up our king even more for his bishops to maul us. Like I said, this is not the easiest position if you've never seen it before.
g5.
g5, I mean, I can move my king and then play f6 and the position's getting bust wide open and white's pawns don't look fun. Or after g5, I can just go queen d7 to start things. And that looks really iffy. Uh-huh.
Maybe bishop g5 to like get his queen off the diagonal.
He's going to put it on d7 and hit the pawn, making his attack better. Uh-huh.
Bishop A3. Straight off the bishop.
I still don't know how you're going to handle queen d7. That's going to be the main threat with almost all of your lines. Bishop a3 is a reasonable idea to try to remove the bishop, but also after bishop a3, bishop takes, queen takes d3. So that kind of refutes that one. Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like either knight h2 or move the kings to put your rook on the g file.
Okay. So defending the pawn that way. You're almost there.
King h1.
Nah.
H2.
I play king g2. So when he takes and attacks, I can go king g3. Because you can't punish the king's placement. And the king actually helps hold some key squares.
H1.
The only reason I played this is because I'd seen it before.
Now you want to keep a black bishop because it's good for his team.
Mm-hmm. So now he's tickling the d pawn, so how do we defend it?
D4.
Open the position up and get murdered. d4, pawn takes check. Like, dude, come on. d4.
D1. C.
c4 opens up, like, notice these pawns together control a good number of squares. If I play c4, that square becomes weaker.
Queen C2.
My queen's on a great square holding back his f pawn.
Rook D1.
And watching his b7 pawn. Rook d1. Keeps tension. So now what's best? He's added more pressure there, but it doesn't really do much.
Just take the B pawn.
Take the b pawn.
That's worse.
That looks sketchy again. Uh-huh.
Knight h4.
Knight h4 is a good place to start. But why not get some development and connect the rooks in the meantime? First, I'm going to tickle the rook because there is no f6. Then I'm going to play knight h4, threatening to take. Because he can't capture back. Now, the engine liked knight f5 and just being slightly better. I was like, but his bishop is so bad and my knight is so powerful. I don't like this. So I just bring my bishop back and I begin to start slowly improving my position. And when he goes b5, this is another critical moment. Because his pawn structure is better than mine. What do you do with white? Mm-hmm.
I had an idea, but I was thinking about G5 as an idea, but no.
Why? But what's the point?
To play G6.
Yeah, he wants to play g6 after g5. a4. a4 is right, absolutely. Because our a pawn's crap, and if we were able to trade, at least that rook hasn't been doing anything's in the game, and we've gotten rid of an isolated pawn. So I really like a4. Good move. And after takes, he's got to defend stuff, so he takes that way. And now pin the bishop. Good. And I started missing some, like, really, really nasty forced wins in here. Bishop b6 is definitely a move that should be considered in here. I first went knight f3. And then knight g5. And this is really nice. I missed knight takes and queen c2, and literally like the engine's just trying to block things so you don't get mated on the h file. And it came up with this long line, but yeah, and every white piece is better than its black's counterpart, and this is just a completely trivial ending. But of course I missed this, and I'm just like, pins! They make wins, whatever. And then when he goes rook f4, let's see if you can find something nasty here.
Oh, take the bishop with the bishop, and then when he takes back, you like rook check, and then when he blocks.
Oh, you take it and then queen takes f7.
No, the rook.
Yeah, but if you take the bishop.
Other rook on f4 is covering
I
f7.
realized that while everyone was saying it, I was like,
And keep in mind, both of us have about a minute. So any deep tactics here, like
No.
I haven't been studying tactics hardcore, so it's just not happening. But you definitely should be looking at the opportune moment to play bishop captures and rook a8 check.
Yeah.
But like notice his king is hemmed in. So rook a8 check should be good in certain scenarios. Uh-huh.
Do you have any ideas with like trade off the bishop and the rook and then knight e6?
Maybe. I don't see it though. Uh-huh.
Rook h1 to put pressure on the weak bishop.
That's an idea. But say he just goes bishop g6. Our d pawn is also hanging with check, right?
Oh, that's what.
Don't forget about
And
that.
the g-
Yeah, that is a bit of a problem. Uh-huh.
F3.
F3's solid, but does it like break his back or anything?
It stops him from mating.
Mating me.
Yeah.
How are you
Could
gonna
you
get
take g4?
Keanu,
That's not.
what are you saying?
F3 makes a lot of sense. Good job.
Go.
Because in any variation, he was like, take it on g4 and hit me, and you guys were like, yeah, I'm going to try to mate him.
I was trying to mate him.
He plays bishop g6. All right, now, how about it? And it's this interesting thing that the engine found.
Oh, knight h. 3.
That's actually what I played in the game, just to bother his rook. And
And
the
if you mix it up, you can play like.
the main idea is pretty sick, though. So you go bishop takes, and after rook takes, rook a8 check. Then he goes rook c8, and then you go queen a2. And the point of queen a2 is, one, you protect your rook on a8, and two, you can swing it over to h2 to double on the h file, and he's in a tomb. And it's like +8. I'm pretty sure that that was the line that the engine recommended. Let me see.
This is rook h1.
Yeah.
Let me double check. Okay, yeah. So bishop c7, and if rook takes, rook a8, rook c8, queen a2, with that idea. So then after queen d8, hitting the knight, we take, and then rook h1. You don't want to move the queen yet because the queen has more options than the rook. And then on queen e8, queen h2, and the king can run.
But you can't have.
Mm-mm. And everything's falling apart. And you can see, like, it's just pretty trivial from there. So that's a nice line. But I play knight h3, which, natural enough, you got to play quick moves in blitz games. And I think he saw the back rank stuff, and he was like, he had it, oh crap.
You can play g5 on the rook moves, then I can do that deal at 7.
And now, I just trade down everything, but I did miss the whole rook a8 idea again, which is just devastating, because rook a8, after king h7, rook h1, and it's GG. Like, it's just complete resigns. But I was oblivious to these simple tactics again. Rook takes c7, and I was like, but I'm just, like, completely winning here. No checks anywhere. And I got the protected pass pawn. Yeah. And that's it. So from start to finish, like, I didn't really make any big mistakes. I understood the position. Again, the opening went all the way into even an ending for me here that I understood. So tactics seem to be in evaluating my own game where I'm having issues. Because even though it's a 3-minute game, if you're doing tactics enough, this kind of stuff just pops right into your head. So that's what I need to work on personally before I go and start competing in tournaments again. But I mean, granted, this is a 3-minute game. I'm not exactly calculating. This is all just first move. If you give me some time, I bet I'm still pretty dangerous with finding ideas. But it was a very satisfactory game and an interesting line in the English, this E3 stuff. When and if I write a repertoire on the English, that's going to be what I do. I think they're interesting positions. Hopefully you enjoyed the analysis.